And welcome to a brand new life, to a brand new day, all the way from the wastelands of California. My name is Michael, pouring some sugar all over you now. Nice to meet you. First time listeners out there, thank you for finding this. This is where gold falls from the sky. Do keep in mind, no matter what it is you do choose to believe, we do admire you for your curiosity. Join us this evening. And he is making his debut, by the way, so please put your hands together for Dr. John Ambrose. He is a retired orthopedic surgeon. He is also a very, very talented painter. And he spends his days now painting various portraits of rock stars and other wonderful creations. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing us into your hearts and into your minds. Here we are again, on a night like this. Always nice to see you out there. How do you do? I wish you all well and a perfect health. And it is July 11th, 2020. Just in case this is heard by someone in the future, by some remarkable chance. I wonder what history will say about the year 2020. Do you ever think about that? Do you care? Lots to discuss here tonight. I'll try and get your questions in. Don't be afraid to weigh in with your opinions here tonight. That's what this program has always been about. an open platform designed for all walks of life out there. Now, without further ado, let's see if my co-host Mike Hideous, who has drawn assignment this evening, let's see what's going on with him, and of course our guest, Dr. John Ambrose. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Hello, Michael. Hello, Dr. John.
Hello.
Welcome. I'm so glad both of you are here this evening, and of course, Dr. John Ambrose, what's going on? I know you are out there in somewhere in New Jersey, is that correct?
That's right, I'm near the metropolis of Paterson, New Jersey.
Paterson, New Jersey. My goodness.
Well, my hometown where I was born and raised.
I was going to say that's where Mike was born, right?
Yes, it is.
That has something to do with the connection, I guess.
I would have to imagine so. And by the way, Doc, how are you feeling this evening? Is everything well with you and your family?
Yes, I'm well. Recently tested for COVID and negative, and I'm recovering from some back surgery about three and a half weeks ago, and I'm absolutely fine at this time.
Very good, very good. And yeah, that's very good news. And I wanted you to take us through your background from that point on. We can branch off into other subjects, but I did want you to take us through your background here. You are a surgeon, and is this something that you wanted to do when you were growing up, John? Or Doc?
Well, bear in mind, I'm a retired surgeon. I'm retired about 4 years and a month now, since I last laid down the scalpel. But in answer to your question, no, my path to becoming an orthopedic surgeon was very circuitous. There was nothing direct about it. It was not in my or my family's intentions at all as I was growing up. And it occurred through a series of serendipitous changes in my life. I'll go back to the beginning. I was born and raised in Jersey City, and came from a sort of a large extended family. A lot of educated people in my family, many of them pioneers in education. From an immigrant family. A lot of them were very educated, but none were physicians, none were doctors, and so I had no knowledge of the career path to medicine, nor any interest or desire to become a doctor most of my youth. But actually, my earliest talents were in the realm of art. I was sort of born with a knack for illustration. I attribute a lot of my fortunate gifts in the realm of art to early experiences as a really small child, a toddler, 2 or 3 years old, when my parents got a television set, which was one of the first television sets in Jersey City.
Nice.
It was in 1948. Television. We got a television because my grandfather owned a tavern, and he had a television, which, I guess my mother and father thought, hey, it's about time we get this newfangled device. And on that television was an interesting early TV show. I'm talking about the late 40s. It was John Nagy Learn to Draw. Nagy spelled Gnagy. I guess it's a Hungarian name. John Nagy had a TV show, Learn to Draw. And as a small child, my parents would try to get me to entertain myself by giving me a stack of blank paper and a pencil. And I would watch John Nagy do these amazing things with charcoal of dogs and geometric figures, and I would try to keep up with him. And I was only about 2 or 3 years old, and I found it extremely frustrating, but it must have made for some connections in my developing brain, so that by the time I was 4, I was able to draw rather naturalistic figures in 3 dimensions, to the amazement of everybody around me. Nevertheless, my family was too well-educated and sophisticated to imagine my pursuing a career in art. And so what I did was just follow the regular academics of elementary school and high school, and didn't know quite exactly what I was going to do when I entered college. Anyhow, to cut to the quick, I found that I had a very strong affinity for biological sciences. I loved biology. I thought it was the most wonderful thing to learn about. And I mean all forms of biology. I liked plant biology. I liked studying insects and worms and mammals and everything else. So I did very well and got good grades in biology. So one of my uncles, actually a great uncle, brought up the subject, said to my mother, you know what, we ought to encourage this kid. If he's good in biology, you know what they do with that? And none of us knew. And he said, they do pre-med and become doctors. So that set me on the path to pre-medical education, applications to medical schools, and eventually acceptance to the New Jersey College of Medicine. Now,
Where was that, Doc?
Well, at that time, this is interesting. New Jersey College of Medicine was newly established by taking over the Seton Hall Medical School.
In Orange? What was it,
That's right.
South Orange?
But that's not where it was located. Seton Hall University, you're right, is in the Oranges. However, their medical school was in Jersey City at the Jersey City Medical Center. Jersey City Medical Center was one of those constructions, extravagant buildings in an Art Deco style from the era of the Depression, when the federal government was spreading money around to patronizing politicians that they favored. And they built a magnificent complex of buildings in Jersey City. However, it was a white elephant in the sense that Jersey City and the surrounding communities did not really require a medical center of that grandiosity. It was something that should be in a major metropolis, and Jersey City always is in the shadow of New York City. So much of the Jersey City Medical Center complex was empty. So Seton Hall Medical School ran their medical school in and around those buildings, and so they repurposed it as a school. And when the state took it over, when the state of New Jersey bought out Seton Hall, they established the medical school there. And it was there that I first started taking medical school classes under the auspices of the College of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey, which was a replacement for Seton Hall's medical school. Eventually, actually the next year, the medical school moved to Newark, New Jersey, and the adjacent larger city just across the river. And I continued my studies there and finished in 4 years. And from there, I pursued a career in surgery, specialty career in surgery.
Right.
And eventually orthopedic surgery.
Orthopedic surgery,
which is
okay.
what I wound up being.
Very interesting.
When did you become a doctor?
Yes.
I graduated medical school with an MD in 1972.
In the 70s.
Now,
okay.
At that point, you have an MD, but not a license. So you proceed to your postgraduate training, which used to be called and can still be thought of as the internship. So I did a 1-year internship at St. Barnabas Medical Center, which is located in Livingston, a suburb of Newark. And from that internship, in which I studied general surgery, I acquired a particular love and interest in orthopedic surgery, which you may know is the specialty dealing with bones, joints, and all the supportive musculoskeletal structures,
Right.
including nerves, ligaments, joints, and so on. So from that internship, I was accepted to an orthopedic residency program, a specialty residency program at St. Joseph's Medical Center in Paterson, New Jersey. And I have been a resident in and around Paterson, actually the suburbs around Paterson, ever since then.
Understood. And no run-ins with Chris Christie.
No, never had any physical. I was never physically in his presence.
Okay, just making sure.
There were times when I admired him, and times when I found him to be somewhat of an embarrassment.
Well, I like you already, Doc. Now, I gotta ask you, how many procedures have you carried out in your entire career? If you can remember that, Doc.
Well, I don't want to give you an inaccurate number, and I have really, I used to collect them, but it became impossible to manage, collecting all the data on that. I used to collect the operative reports and so on. All I can say is this: I have a basement full of medical records that includes many thousands of patients. Now, understand, an orthopedic surgeon doesn't only do surgical operations. There's a lot of non-surgical management that goes into care for musculoskeletal problems. And so while I have had many, many thousands of patients, perhaps tens of thousands of patients, the major surgical procedures I did would be a smaller fraction of that. Maybe 25% of my patients were subjected to surgery. The other 75% would be treated with medications, physical therapy, braces, advice, home exercises, lifestyle changes, and so on. But in the final analysis, most of my surgical career, which I would say was about 25% of my patient encounters, most of my surgical career was devoted to treatment of injuries, like fractures and dislocations of bones and joints, and reconstruction of arthritic joints, such as by performing total hip replacement, shoulder replacement, knee replacement, and the like.
So lots of like sports injuries.
Very much.
Yeah, I would expect
a lot of orthopedic surgeons dub themselves, subtitle sports medicine.
Right. Doc, any botched surgeries?
Any botched surgeries?
Never mind, Doc. I'll edit that part out.
I remember botched surgeries, and if I did, I certainly wouldn't enumerate them for you. However, I have to tell you, to be honest, not everything turns out well. And one of the first things you tell patients undergoing surgery, and then when they sign a consent for surgery, is there's no guarantee that this is going to be successful. After all, there are many factors, biological, chemical, and unforeseen circumstances, coexisting medical conditions, and so on, that can interfere with a perfectly successful outcome.
So are you saying it's a roll of the dice at times?
Well, yeah, the dice are loaded because, after all, we are applying the accumulated knowledge of the science of medicine that comes to us now, or came to me then, in the late 20th century, and it was very effective in warding off the worst complications or failures. We knew how to prevent infections, not all of them, but we know how to prevent infections that followed from surgery. We knew the anatomical considerations that would keep us from cutting nerves or vessels or doing any harm. But, people heal the way they heal, and not everyone heals perfectly well for reasons that are both related to nutrition, to their genetics, to their lifestyle, to how compliant they are with follow-up instructions, and so on. So I have to confess, not everybody got a perfectly satisfactory or even a triumphant result, but the vast majority of patients who, for example, and by the way, in my later years, I specialized mostly in doing hip and knee replacement and an occasional shoulder replacement operation for arthritic damaged joints. Most of those patients are absolutely jubilant about how they were restored to normal function.
Amazing. Don't worry, Doc. We will edit that part out. Now, Doc, for the past several months, the world has been at a standstill. The future is shaky, and there appears to be no end in sight. What's happening now is completely unimaginable and mind-boggling. No one, except maybe a few, could have predicted this turn of events. And I personally don't know where you stand with COVID-19, Doc, and I'll let you know my thoughts and opinions on the matter. But, Doc, I'll let you handle the floor here. What is your opinion on COVID-19?
Well, I'm glad you asked, but I have to preface it by saying, as an orthopedic surgeon, I was very adept at sawing through bones and drilling into bones to put screws and plates. That hardly makes me an authority on epidemiology or virology.
Don't worry, though, Doc. We like opinions here. It's okay.
Yeah, I know basic medical thinking, basic biological principles. And of course, I'm a reasonably well-informed layman when it comes to the information circulating about the current pandemic.
Right.
But what I like to think, I think I'm on firm ground when I say this, that this virus, this COVID-19 virus, is probably not very different from other novel viruses that have spread around the world and been the source of a lot of illness and death. It's on the other hand, the human biology is prepped for it. It's prepared to deal with it. And just like I was saying about my operations and those that didn't result in great outcomes, there are many factors that can influence how well a person reacts to infection with this virus. And as is widely known and touted in every newspaper or radio or television article, people with pre-existing conditions, people with advanced age, people with obesity and diabetes are at a disadvantage when it comes to mounting an immune response to this virus if they get it. However, that said, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of healthy people who have none of those unfortunate factors going for them, the vast majority of healthy adults will survive it, will be ill for a while. Some are not ill at all, and that's come to be well known. Some people have had the illness and never had significant symptoms and come through it using their own body's immunological resources. So it's not quite as terrible as a lot of authorities would have us believe, but it's a lot worse than a flu for which we have a vaccine or a specific drug.
Right, and of course, New Jersey, the cases are rising up there. 174,000, I believe.
Yeah, well, New Jersey is one of the most densely areas in the entire world.
Right.
You know, a city like Hoboken, and there are numerous cities with a similar demographic. A city like Hoboken ranks among the highest 5 or 6 cities in the world in population density. You know, it compares with Hong Kong and Tokyo and Calcutta. New Jersey is densely populated, and of course, viruses will spread more readily. And of course, there are more people in the categories that I enumerated: the aged, the ill, those with the coexisting factors. And so New Jersey will have kind of a bad record compared to, for example, Wyoming.
It's one of the reasons. It's one of the reasons I left. Actually, one of the reasons I left New Jersey was because of its extremely densely populated within the big cities, particularly. I mean, if you go north or west, you sort of kind of it sort of pans out a little more.
That's right.
But you know, in the more concentrated areas in the metropolitan area, it's just unbelievable. And it's one of the reasons I had to get out of there.
Sure, and that's understandable. So that's why New Jersey is one of the hardest hit. It's,
Doc? What's your thoughts on chlorohydro? Michael, help me out.
Hydrochloroquine.
Hydrochloroquine. Oh, yeah, okay.
You know, that's a drug called Plaquenil. That's a brand name of it, Plaquenil. It has a brand name because it's not a rarity. It's widely used, you know, for preventing malaria.
Right.
It's by the way, the proper name is hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine, and that's Plaquenil. It's also used in rheumatoid arthritis. It modifies the immune response. It modifies the immune response, and I don't know exactly. I don't think anybody is sure of the mechanism why that helps. It seems to be helpful if applied in the early stages, like the first 5 days of recognizing the illness. And no doubt it has something to do with modifying the immune response, which is especially important in this disease because they report that people don't get desperately ill and die from the action of the virus, but rather from the body's exaggerated and inappropriate overreaction to it. The immune response can get really wildly out of hand and destroy the lung tissue or other tissues, blood vessels. And so perhaps, and I'm just guessing at this, perhaps hydrochloroquine or Plaquenil, which is used for malaria and rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune diseases, just tamps down that exaggerated immune response.
So Doc, I got to ask you a question based on what you just said. If you're saying, based on your medical knowledge and the associations you've had with other doctors who treat such patients with CCP virus, does the drug, is it safe? Because so many people, I hear so many conflicting reports about the drug being not safe and that it'll kill you, so on and so forth. And what's your response to that?
Very good that you ask. No drug, and certainly not aspirin or Tylenol or any of the very common, widely used and uncontrolled drugs, none of them are 100% safe.
Right.
None. And hydrochloroquine has the unfortunate property of prolonging the electrical heartbeat. It prolongs certain phases of that heartbeat. And you know, for 99% of people, they wouldn't even notice it. It probably wouldn't affect them if they're on a treadmill and they're experiencing this change in their heartbeat. They wouldn't even know it. However, in susceptible, in vulnerable individuals, that prolongation of the electrical activity in the heart can lead to an arrhythmia. Now, to tell the truth, I've never heard of anybody dying from such an arrhythmia, but it's possible, it's conceivable that if you had something wrong with the mechanism of your heart regular beat, I guess one out of I don't want to say a number because I wouldn't be accurate, but one out of so many people might get a toxic reaction to their heart. Other than that, I don't know of any other deleterious side effect from hydroxychloroquine. I don't know of any other.
Yeah, there's also remdesivir, which is another drug that's been talked about.
Another drug. And that works entirely differently. And that seems to be most effective in, I think, the later stages. Now, I can say don't quote me on that, but this is going down on the record.
Yes.
But anyhow, remdesivir has a very well-known mode of action. Remdesivir is a molecule that gets incorporated into the virus as it's being manufactured, right? What happens is your body manufactures more of these viruses. The idea of the virus is to go into your cells and tell your cells, manufacture more of me. If you have remdesivir available as a raw material, that gets incorporated into the viruses that are being manufactured by your metabolism, which has been hijacked by the virus.
Right.
Unfortunately for the virus, and fortunately for takers of remdesivir, that remdesivir molecule, gets included into the works. It's like a monkey wrench in the works, and that virus is not able to reproduce itself. It's not able to do its job, and falls victim to your white blood cells and your antibodies, which then take it as a piece of biological debris and destroy it. So remdesivir is used as a raw material, and it turns out to be to the virus, it's an anti-metabolite. It gets into the metabolism, and it prevents the virus from being constructed in its usual way.
And by the way, Doc, I got to quickly jump in here and ask this question, Mike. Doc, you yourself, are you in decent health? No illnesses or anything that could maybe make you a victim of COVID-19?
Well, I'm no spring chick. If you remember the date I said I graduated medical school in 1972, do the arithmetic.
Right.
So he's an elderly man.
Right.
Yeah, I am an aged, surviving septuagenarian.
I love that. And yes, Doc, by the way, just another random question here before I hand it back up to Mike. Many have called the World Health Organization a criminal medical organization. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Amazing. Go ahead and tell us why.
That was sort of my next question. There are some people out there, Doc, who say that this was a manufactured virus.
Man-made, yes, bioweapon.
Right, that it was accidentally or purposely released by the CCP. Now, the thing is, the question to that, which it makes you think, if it was indeed or even accidentally released as a biological weapon, why would they release it in Wuhan in their own country? Which could then lead you to think, well, maybe it was accidentally released. But I'm sure you're well aware that this all started, it was originally studied in America as far back as what we think is 2008, then sent to China, then sent to Canada, and then sent back to China, which then we have this wonderful release on the entire world. What are your thoughts in that area of it being possibly man-made? And what do you think about that?
That's a different question than Michael had just posed to me, but let me address it and try and get it out of the way. There are labs around the world that are working on viruses and modifying them and studying them and seeing how they reproduce and how they don't reproduce and how to stop it. They're all over the world. Wuhan, and of course the United States has the same program of studying viruses. I have to assume, and again, this is speculation. I have neither the inside knowledge nor even the understanding of virology, but it has to be assumed that it was poor sterile technique that allowed this virus under study in Wuhan to contaminate some of the workers. In other words, people failed in following the sterile protocols of protecting themselves and the public, and someone carried it out from that Wuhan lab, almost surely unintentionally. Now, that doesn't mean that it wasn't being worked on as a biological weapon, and I consider that a very strong possibility. However, I think that its release and its spread in Wuhan was probably accidental. You know, these things are very dangerous. These labs have the most incredibly strict protocols for how the workers, the scientists, the physicians, the technicians, how they must protect themselves and the environment. The countertops they work on, the glasses, the test tubes, the instruments, the electronics, they have to protect it. And somebody, I think, failed and got it on themselves and spread it around, accidentally. Of course, we know that what we're angry about is that when that happened, the Chinese Communist Party's policy is to be quiet about it. Don't reveal that we make mistakes. We can't do anything wrong. Whoever blows the whistle on that is a liar. They need to be punished. They need to be silenced. That is just exactly what the Communist Party in the Soviet Union did when Chernobyl turned into a local, or I should say regional, disaster, taking many lives and creating an ecological disaster that will continue in Chernobyl for millennia to come. Thousands of years from now, Chernobyl will still be a horrible, dangerous place, because the Communist Party policies in the Soviet Union at that time were to suppress any knowledge and thereby limit the appropriate response to containing it. Well, apply that same communist mentality to the Wuhan virus getting out. Instead of working on getting assistance from the Americans or the Swedes or anybody else who has an adequate scientific and epidemiological approach to this, rather than getting that help, they suppressed the information while the thing went like wildfire through Wuhan, and then, of course, as we all know, onto planes that went to Europe and America and contaminated the rest of the world.
Do you think that, do you think what's happening right now in the country with this shutdown, and the wearing of the masks and the not opening of businesses, do you think this is a healthy situation? Do you think it's mandatory at this point that we remain as we have been for the last 5 months? 6 months.
Well, here's how I see that. When the virus hit America and Canada and the rest of the world, we were told, my memory is a little faulty at this age, but I seem to remember we were told that 2 weeks of lockdown would flatten the curve. We all know what that means, right? That we're gonna slow the spread of it so that hospitals are not overwhelmed. And that would be a disaster if hospitals are overwhelmed. Let's say if any given hospital has 12 ICU beds, but 120 people need them, that would be a real disaster. Okay, so the intention to flatten the curve was very wise, very well intended, perfectly just and correct. So that 2 weeks of lockdown to flatten the curve accomplished that.
It was good.
Nowhere.
We were doing good, Doc.
Again, I only read newspapers. I'm not reading journals of epidemiology or virology, but it happened. It worked. That curve was flattened. I never read that any hospital system was so overwhelmed that they had people dying in the parking lots or in hallways because there were insufficient ICU beds. I never read that. Did you? Has anybody heard of that happening?
All I have heard about is how some of these makeshift or these hospitals that were built for this particular pandemic. I from what I understand in New York, the governor wasn't even letting people go to those makeshift hospitals.
Yes, the Javits Convention Center was set up as one, and
right.
then that ship that
right.
parked in the harbor.
That's right.
And they weren't even utilized. So nowhere. And if I'm wrong, somebody tell me. I never heard of any hospital system being overwhelmed. So, ergo, the effect of flattening the curve worked. What is the purpose of the lockdown now?
That's what I was getting at. What do you think is happening? Why are they doing this?
Okay, I guess the claim, and I'll grant that there's some logic to this, although I can't say that I support it. The claim is, if you can wait until a vaccine, then everybody stay in their house, close businesses, shut down the economy, abort the education system. If we can do that, maybe in a few months or years, there'll be a vaccine, and then we could start all over again from scratch. Well, I can't support that. But I believe that's the thinking now. If we can wait till a vaccine, until then, put life on hold, put the economy into the tank, and let our children become, I don't know what do they become if they don't go to school? And what happens to the parents who have jobs and have to stay home rather than leave, children 5, 6, 9, 10 years old alone at home to do their remote learning? I mean, that's crazier still than letting the virus run its natural course. That's crazier still.
But what do you think if they actually contract the virus at school and bring it home to their parents?
Well, it's very well established that children either don't contract the disease. Children have ferociously effective immune systems. And there may be other reasons why they don't get it, or if they do get it, it's they immediately wipe it out. They sterilize the virus. The other thing is, it's well known that they rarely, and that doesn't mean never, but they rarely transmit it to adults. However, I would suggest that a child who goes to school and may possibly pick up the virus, even if they don't get ill from it, might possibly pick up the virus, they probably shouldn't go sitting on the lap and smooching their grandparents.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and aside from that, I don't see any of the extreme lockdown methods, especially as applied to children and young people. I don't see the reason for doing it.
Well, going back to the hospital thing, things are not good out here in El Centro, California, where I'm located, actually. I did want to mention that here to Mike and you, of course, and everyone else, that the National Guard is actually out here now, and they are helping conduct mobile testing right here next to the hospital. And that's
great. That's great.
Pretty wild.
Now, Michael, it's interesting because several months ago, I remember you had said that things were pretty much okay.
They were okay at first.
And now it all kind of went to hell?
It kind of went to shit pretty quickly out here.
Well, I mean, are people dropping like flies? Are people dying?
I don't know if they're dying, but they're being sent out of here. I know they probably wouldn't have these sort of extended tents if things were, I guess you could say, honky-dory out here.
Well, if they're doing testing, I absolutely applaud that.
It's a very odd thing that's going on, Doc, for sure.
I've been tested twice.
You've been tested? Did they stick the thing down your nose or your throat?
Yeah, up.
The swab.
Let's say up your nose. Yeah, and yeah, sure. And it is a very effective measure. And testing people, I think they should do it. They should put the National Guard, the way you describe, around tents and test everybody left and right. And if you get tested positive, great. Go home, lock yourself up, talk to your doctor, probably get treated by telemedicine, stay home and stop spreading it. That's a great idea. That's a great idea. Stay home. Don't talk to your grandparents. Don't go to nursing homes and spread it to the vulnerable. Once you know you've had it, good. But once you know that you haven't had it, I don't really understand why you're wearing a mask. Are you going to be? You're not coughing. If you don't have it in your nose, then talking to people is not going to require a mask, which may be ineffective anyhow. Look, I wear masks when I'm in company. I wear masks when I go to the store. If I go to a coffee shop, if I pick up something in a store, or take out food, I wear masks.
Sure.
And why wouldn't you? But
well, Michael Jackson did.
Too far, yeah.
Michael Jackson was wearing a mask way back in the early 90s.
And he was ridiculed for it?
He was. He was ahead of his time.
Let me bring something up, guys.
Go ahead.
When I had first got my opportunity to sing for the Misfits in 1998, I'll never forget how we got on a plane and we went to England, and the bassist of the band, Jerry Only, he wore an operating face mask on his face, and I asked him, I said, why are you wearing that? He goes, well, everybody knows that when you get on a plane, it's all recirculated air, just like working in an office building. All
right.
Recirculated air.
True.
And those germs just keep getting recycled. And he said by wearing the face mask, he wasn't breathing in, for the most part. He was filtering the air that was coming through the vents of the airplane. And I'll tell you, after that, I had taken 2 flights on my own after the whole Misfits thing fell apart. There have been 2 flights that I've taken, and both of them that I took, I wore a mask because
makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, for me especially, because I've got a compromised immune system.
Autoimmune,
cancer
right.
in the past.
Sure,
So,
right.
And on top of that, when I was flying, not wanting to catch a cold, I wore a mask.
That's right. Makes sense. Remember, now this goes back many years. I don't remember how long ago. Legionnaire's disease. They had passengers who had been to an American Legion convention, I believe, and somebody had this pneumonia, an unusual bacteria that causes a specific form of pneumonia, and that went through the airplane's recirculating air system and killed many of them.
Amazing.
So it's not a bad idea to wear a mask. I have never worn a mask on an airplane, but maybe this is a good thing for the future, unless they find a way to sterilize the air going through the filtration system or the recirculation system.
By the way, Doc,
sure
quick question for both of you here, actually. Do you think during the Spanish flu of 1918, people were telling other people they shouldn't wear a mask?
Were they?
I don't know. I'm asking. I'm wondering. Has anyone heard of anything like that?
I think pictures I've seen, photos, grainy old black and white photos from that era, show some people wearing masks and not others.
And not others? Okay. I had no clue.
Yeah, I don't know. And then, the troop ships, the soldiers on their way to fight World War I in Europe, were, they were right on top of each other by the hundreds and hundreds of men. It's not a bad idea. People treating very infectious diseases like measles, nurses, and so on, they wear masks. And
well, hang on now.
Nothing's 100% effective, but it's a good idea.
Hang on now, Doc. Let's bring something up that you and I have talked about recently, and that is that when in World War I, once the soldiers went into battle and they were on the field, did it or did it not help them being outdoors, getting sunlight, vitamin D? Didn't that help them rather than staying inside, sequestered from getting vitamin D and allowing your body to fight off naturally what it could be affected by?
Well, I can only express an educated guess, and I would say, of course, since vitamin D is absolutely critical. By critical, I mean that there's no way around the need for vitamin D. And you get vitamin D by exposure to the sun. Since that is the case, then soldiers or young recruits from the industrial cities of America, like Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh, which was the iron and steel producing capital of the America. These people were living in smoggy, smoky, dark cities of the late Industrial Revolution. And I'm sure that they were vitamin D deficient.
Right.
Therefore, when they were forced outdoors for their training, their boot camp, and unfortunately also the battlefields, they would be exposed to the sun. They would develop the vitamin D that they needed to combat the Spanish flu.
Amazing. By the way, Doc, I hate to do this during this conversation, but there is a caller, and I have a feeling they have a question for you. Caller, go ahead. You are live on the air.
More statement. I caught in late to the program, so I didn't hear everything Doctor said, but on the mask issue, I just like to throw down three premises that are pretty undeniable.
Go in there.
Sorry, enlightened. Good evening, Mike, and
get in there.
Doctor.
Go ahead.
You got one, which you got is the track record. Everything that the experts, quote unquote, have told us is either inaccurate, wrong, a lie, or a political narrative.
Amazing.
Two, you have the science. Everybody loves science when it backs up what you believe, but the science, the mask does not stop a virus. What it does stop is the flow of oxygen to such a rate that it becomes an OSHA violation. If your employer is making you wear it, it reduces your oxygen percentage to a dangerous level. And if you rebreathe your own pollution, it's a hotbed for bacteria. So the science says completely the opposite when it comes to masks. And then the third tenet I got is the law. There is no law constitutionally that can mandate me to wear this mask. So these edicts, these governors that are on their pulpit saying, you must do this, that went through no course of law, and you can't violate my rights. So 1, 2, 3, I say hell no to a mask.
Amazing.
Well, it has become a political divide because those who adamantly and militantly apply masks and demand it of everybody else seem to fall into one political category. They accept all the lately come recommendations that people should wear masks. Remember when they said not to wear masks, and now those same authorities are saying wear masks. So, but those who accept that fall into a particular political category, and those like this caller fall into an entirely different political category. Let's call them the libertarian or constitutionalist political category. I'm somewhere in between. I know that I don't enjoy wearing a mask, and I'm dying to take it off.
Me too.
Because I feel like I'm rebreathing my CO2.
I don't like it.
think I'm deprived of oxygen, but I think I'm failing to blow off the CO2. Or I'm rebreathing my own carbon dioxide that you exhale. But I don't think it has a serious physical or health, detrimental health effect. I really don't think wearing a mask has the untoward effect that our caller believes. However, I haven't seen studies on it, and the doctors I know who specialize in respiratory diseases, they have very refined methods for checking what your oxygen level is with and without a mask, what your carbon dioxide level in your blood is with and without a mask, and so I just don't know how those findings shake out if and when subjected to those really accurate assessments.
By the way, Doc, one thing that I did want to mention to the caller here and to you and Mike and all the listeners out there, I did want to mention that the media also doesn't talk about the abundance of those who actually survived the CCP virus. Lots of people have recovered. The only issue with that is, even though you contract this virus and you are quote unquote cured from the virus, it's still in your system. It's still
dormant carrier.
It's a very weird sort of virus. That's why I'm led to believe that this was man-made, Doc.
Hey, Mike, just so you know,
well, I don't know about man-made. I think that what they do in these virus labs is they collect viruses from the from animal sources, from bats and fish. I've read that bats and fish have been sources for the labs to harvest viruses and study them. So I don't know. That's how I see it. It's not so much manufactured. Could it be altered in the labs? Yes, you can alter. I say you can. They can alter the genetics of a virus, and I guess that's part of what the labs are dedicated to doing, because then they can figure out ways to build to create remedies for the virus by studying how they modify the genetics of the virus.
Also, biological warfare.
By the way, caller, go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, and like what you're saying is on point. It's virologist. This is a naturally occurring virus, and it's manipulated in the laboratories to bring about different aspects and attack certain genes, if you will. And CRISPR, the technology is scary. But again, I have to come back to the facts. Aside from the political side of the fence you're on, you don't have a right to make me wear something. And if you want to wear a mask, by all means, more power to you. And I have a handful of masks that I wear at different times. Right now I'm unemployed, but I used to work in in a lot of different places that I do confined space. And you go into training you get when you go into a confined space, you have an atmospheric monitor, and it tests the air for all the pollutants and everything else. And if it drops below a certain percentage of oxygen, it goes off because it's an unsafe environment, and they need to pipe in fresh air. It's an easy meter, so it's easy to tell. This mask it's a scam. And I have to come back and just step away from the politics. Let's look at the beans, the facts, the money. Okay, these bums who have created this crisis have profited to the tune of trillions of dollars on this. And these people are lying, cheating, and stealing, coming and going, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows they're stealing trillions of dollars out of nowhere off of your great-grandchildren's backs. I don't have any. So your children are going to pay for this with their lives, for the rest of their lives. They're thieves, they're liars, they're cheats, and everybody knows it. And these tests are manipulated so that if you had a common cold, a.k.a. the coronavirus, if you have a coronavirus, it sticks with you. The antibodies do, because your body fights off the cold. So that's what a lot of these tests are picking up, these false positives. I had a cold 10 years ago. Well, my body still has antibodies from that cold. The tests are designed to say everybody has it because you have over 100 companies that are fighting for multi-billion-dollar contracts to produce this vaccine, let alone the legislation that's going to implement and force the vaccine, which is nothing more than a big money laundering cycle. They're taking money out of nowhere and using us like guinea pigs. It's evil.
I have to agree with him.
Well, in support of what he's saying, and, I can only half-heartedly support everything that our caller has said. But in support of what he's saying, look at the massive industry of protective gear that the Chinese that the Chinese Communist Party initiated in their own country. The production of masks and protective suits, hazmat suits, gloves, hand wipes, antiseptics. China created a huge industry and monopolized it for many years. I mean, not many years, but for many weeks and months. They monopolized the production of gloves and masks and hazmat suits and all the other protective gear. So in support of what our caller is saying, there's certainly an element of greed and malicious intentions involved in that effort.
No doubt.
I still certainly think that this was man-made, used the help of bat like SARS and human SARS all joined in a nice little concoction, rather. and served up to you by a bioweapons lab by the military. I think that's exactly what happened here, and what's been going on, and the fact that this thing hasn't been that potent is because it's not a complete virus. I think this was just an experiment of sorts, and that's what leaked out, and that's what we're dealing with. Caller, go ahead.
It's the flu has many different names. One I like in partial to is called the control virus. And this is absolutely what they did. They rolled out the martial law. I mean, you don't even talk about the flu deaths. So there are no flu deaths this year because they lumped them all to the cornholio, okay? But what they did is they used this to control the society. They implemented the martial law. They took over the food system, the petroleum. They took over everything. It's the fourth turning, or it's the fourth industrial revolution. They're smashing the old global order and bringing in a new one. And now the powers that be, the powers that shouldn't be, are all fighting over who's going to control this 21st century thing. The fix is in, and you're right, follow the money. Look at the money. Look at where it's coming and going. Event 201, Bill Gates and John Hopkins, they wargamed this exact scenario at the same time it breaks out. This is not more than circumstantial evidence, and they hold the patents for these viruses for many years past, and they have all the fingers and all the avenues and all to do all their things. They're guilty as can be. Everybody knows it. Just nobody has balls big enough to press the charges.
And caller, let me ask you this question here. There was a COVID party. I'm not sure if you heard this, but there was a kids. Well, I shouldn't say kids. This guy's like 30. I believe he was attending a COVID party, thinking the virus was a hoax, and now he's fucked. What's your take on that?
These are the same morons that eat Tide Pods.
Exactly.
I call it natural selection. Let them die. Die. I'm sorry. Let's put you just not. I don't be harsh and cruel to say die. Everybody deserves a chance for life. We've misprogrammed them, so it's only half their fault that they're morons. But at some point, you become accountable for your own actions. And a sixth grader could see this. You could line it out like with beans. And in every disaster, 9/11, follow the money. Like the insurance here, and who had stocks in here and did this. You look at the BP Macondo oil well. Halliburton took Boots and Coots over like 10 days earlier. The spill, it just follow the money all the way. And again, it's a whole new world, though. They need this 5G blockchain technology to push us into the 21st century control grid. Quite frankly, it's a geocomputer. We're already all on it. We all have data communicators on us, near us, or somewhere around they're monitoring every aspect of our life. They just want to link it together for total control. And they got to get rid of the money because, oh my God, the germ lives. It doesn't live. Got to get rid of it. It's fear and it's terrorism. Like, I mean, you believe this bullshit they're talking about? There's a coin shortage? Total horseshit.
Coin shortage?
Total horseshit. Yeah, I heard that.
You haven't heard of the coin shortage?
I gotta agree with the caller on a lot of aspects. However, I'm going to go right out there and say it since nobody else just said it. I believe that this is a movement from the left, the Democratic Party, that is trying to make it so that everybody thinks, well, President Trump didn't do enough, and thus it's his fault that so many people died. But it's not. I mean, you cannot blame one man.
Mike, are you saying the virus is from the left? Is that what you are saying?
I'm not saying it's from
okay, I was confused. I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about here?
No, let me
Mike, if I may,
myself.
Mike was trying to say is that they hijacked this whole scenario to destroy the economy, to debase the Trump train. And Mike was so right. They're absolutely politicized this. And you can look down the party lines. The states that have the close down and the mask laws, they're all Democratic shitholes. And they're the same places that have all the deaths. I mean, in every Democratic city, you have tens of people dying every weekend. Nobody cares. The gun violence through the roof. Why? Because they have all the laws that say you can't carry a gun. You look at it, it is absolutely being politicized. But I think it's so much more than the right-left paradigm of the dirty bird. It's global.
Right.
And they're trying to take over the new order. And Trump is derailing that. Trump's like, fuck your Luciferian New World Order. I don't want nothing to do with it. America and God. Well, you can't have that. That's why the entire
American God.
Was
amazing.
Against them.
By the way, caller, tell me about this coin shortage.
The U.S. Mint, the Treasury, the Mint, they had problems getting supply and demand because of the whole manufacturing cornholio, nothing's traveling or working, stay-at-home order. So they weren't able to mint this year's run of coinage. So now they're using this as a reason to say there's a shortage of coins, and in some registers at some locations, you'll come into a sign that says exact change only because we don't have money. They're just pushing you onto your card.
Wow. Yep, that I didn't know. Now that I didn't know. I had no idea of this coin shortage. Very strange. And thank you for that, caller. I will have to look into that.
It's just as much nonsense as like the virus lives on the bill. They're just pumping terror and trying to remove the money from the system because it's all going crypto. They have to advance this, what is it called? Not the singularity, but the Internet of Things. It's a technological term. Internet of Things. That's where all the things communicate with one another and make this big mega control grid, and it makes everything so seamless and smooth until you're a dissident or you say something they don't like, then they just turn you off. And even worse, this flu, this freaking COVID cornholio flus they're working, this is a nano flu. These are nanoparticles, smart dust. MIT created it with DARPA. We breathe this trash in and it's activatable with frequencies. So now once we all get chipped and gridded onto this system, they can now turn your flu on. Just by like computers and such, because they got it is that nefarious. Smart dust. Look it up. You breathe it in and it's controllable.
Amazing call. And by the way, any more questions for the doc before we part ways here, caller?
No, that's it. I apologize because I missed the first part of the program. I got a couple 5-year-olds running around who I got to get them some chem sticks. So my bad, but thank you much, Mike, and Doctor. Appreciate you taking my call.
You got it. I hope they don't get you sick, by the way.
No cornholio here.
I hope not.
Baking soda every day.
Mahalo. Take care. Well, hopefully he doesn't contract the CCP virus from his children if they go to school. Every parent I know always gets sick because of their children.
Well, this is a unique illness, and it's not. Yes, the seasonal flu is very infectious toward children, and children are very effective transmitters of the seasonal flu back home to their families, to their parents. That's not the case, at least as far as we've seen. That's not the case with the COVID-19. It does not behave like the seasonal flu in terms of using children as the vectors for spreading it.
Well, I hope the school is open, by the way, because I want to see what happens once they do go back to school and if they do start spreading the virus to their parents. So this would be a great experiment, Doc.
Well, yeah, and so far, those who study the spread of this say that children rarely get it, and even more rarely transmit it to adults.
In fact,
but that remains to be seen. You're right. Open the schools and let's see what happens.
I want to see what happens. I mean, I'm very curious to see what happens, and hopefully that isn't really taken and in a way where it's like, oh well, he's being cruel to say that he wants parents to be sick. But no, this is a good experiment of sorts, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, I know what you mean. You're not being malicious. You're or even facetious. You're simply saying that, we should see what happened and stop screwing around by this constant, shut everybody up and put them away and don't work. I mean, this is absolutely insane, man. It's insane. So many people are, including myself, are suffering greatly as a result of no work. I mean, it can't go on like this, and I really think it's being completely blown out of proportion. Matter of fact, Doc, Michael believes that he may have had it in, what was it, Michael, January?
It was like sometime in January, but I didn't have any of the classic symptoms that one would have if they had COVID-19, so I'm not even sure if I had contracted the virus or not. I don't know. But I was really sick, though. That's true.
There is an antibody test that you can undergo. And if you request it from your physician, you might be able to have your blood drawn and show if you have evidence of previous infection with it.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, because I would like to know.
China.
I got sick at the beginning of January, right after New Year's Day. I think it was like 3 or 4 days later, 5 days later, I got terribly sick. I was out on the couch for about 4 days. And when I went to the doctor, they had said it was strep throat and flu A.
Yeah, sore throat is definitely one of the features of the COVID virus.
Really? Because I would like to know if there's a way I can get tested and see if I actually did have it.
Yes, absolutely. And I had that, not only the nasal swab that Michael asked me about earlier,
Oh boy.
but I had the blood test too to show that no, fortunately or unfortunately, I have not had it, and I don't have antibodies against it.
So you did have the swab test. What about the nasal?
I had the swab test twice, and I had the blood test too.
No nasal test.
Yes, wait. The swab is from the nose, nasal.
Oh, okay, yes.
That's what you asked me about. You said that they stick it up my nose. Yes.
Right. Okay.
I did that twice, negative, and I also had the blood test to see if there was evidence in the production of antibodies from having had the virus, and that was negative also. I have not been exposed.
Very, very well, very well. And I'm glad, and by virtue, what we are experiencing right now in this point in time is historic. The historians will have plenty to say and relay about what happened in the year 2020.
Oh yeah, I'll say.
My goodness, the paradigm shift is happening now, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And I'm not affiliated to any political party, by the way. I'm completely independent and have never received a dime from the U.S. government. I'm afraid we will continue to see more civil unrest across America, Doc.
Oh yeah, I'm afraid so. It's not over.
It's not over at all.
If I may change the subject just a hair, have either one of you guys seen the news about the apparent BLM monument that's going up in front of Trump Tower in New York City?
Well, they're painting the street, right, with Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Big oversized yellow lettering. Actually, hand painted by Mayor de Blasio. Hand painted. I take pictures of him painting it. You know, with the roller on the long stick. He's very
douche.
tall.
He's such a douche.
So he has a long handle roller, and he's painting this sign. Yeah.
What a douche. I can't stand him.
He's not likable or admirable in any way.
DeCameo.
So yes, I'm afraid we will continue to see the civil unrest while both sides are completely brainwashed to a certain degree. I think many have unfortunately drank the proverbial Kool-Aid. Factions, groups, teams, all designed to tell you what to do and what not to do, like TV and social media. Who to like, who to dislike, who to fear.
Yeah.
None of it ever stops you. None of this actually stops your entire life.
No, fortunately.
I mean, this never stops.
So, if you are someone who is self-employed in some type of a gig economy, I don't know, say a musician or
like myself,
or an artist.
Myself, as a photographer.
Yeah, none of it ever stops. You know, your entire life you are being pimped.
You fall through the cracks. The government's doesn't have you targeted for assistance, and your economy is dead. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are disc jockeys, DJs.
Sure.
You know what they do? They try to do these online dance parties.
Oh my!
I mean, I really, really admire them. I really think it's a wonderful, courageous, enterprising thing for them to do. But I haven't listened to a single one of them. I haven't done it. And I mean, and these are friends. I love them. I support them. But you know, it's sort of pathetic what we've been, reduced to.
That's right.
This is what we've been reduced to.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm telling both of you and everyone out there. None of this ever stops. Your entire life, you're being pimped out by the very system you and I defend. Make no questions about it. I love this country, and I will always try to defend whichever idiot is in the big chair. But with that said, I'm not even religious, and I feel crucified by the IRS, and I'm feeling crucified right now by China.
Yeah, they really screwed us badly. They really, really did. This is a wonderful coup that they've pulled off, a wonderful triumph that they've carried out. The Chinese Communist Party has to be recognized as the most evil and destructive force in the world today.
China.
I agree.
The Chinese Communist Party has surpassed all other villains of the world. ISIS, Al Qaeda, none of them can come near the amount of harm destruction and malice that the Chinese Communist Party has visited upon the entire world.
They're winning the fight, in my opinion.
They're winning the fight right now.
You know, Doc and Mike, if both of you would have told me there's going to be a pandemic, I would have thought both of you are just insane.
I would have said the same thing. I would have said the same thing.
I would have said you guys are smoking crack.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, look, Michael, I would have thought exactly what you would have thought about us being in control.
It's insane.
But look, as we just said before, the CCP lied. They lied to us about it. They lied to the whole world, and they covered it up, and that's where the problem started.
Yeah, and look at what they're doing to Hong Kong. They're such vicious tyrants. What they're doing to Hong Kong. I just saw a Chinese woman doctor. I think she must be from Hong Kong. She said that I think she had to flee to America. She said that if she stayed in Hong Kong, they would disappear her and kill her. For revealing what the Chinese Communist Party is doing to that part of the world.
Oy vey.
You know, and it makes you think, because when President Trump took office and began to buck horns, so to speak, with China, in the sense that, you know, the trade deals were bad and he put sanctions on them, and then we stood up for Hong Kong when they were trying to put them down. You know, it makes you think, gee, did China do this purposely? Are they pissed at us because we interfered with them? Look, they were even building islands off the coast of, well, not off the coast, but near Japan, and making them military sites. I mean, they have gotten to a point where they are extremely dangerous to the entire world. And it's ultimately their goal to take the world and dominate it. I mean, and they're doing a goddamn good job.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yes, whether it was intentional or not, they are winning the fight, in my opinion. And I'm at the edge of my seat, boys, in pure anticipation in what happens next. This is what I can only describe as a bad horror movie that you'd find on Netflix at 2:34 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, only it's real life.
Only it's real life. That's, my goodness. That's insane.
I'm with you on that, Michael. I've been a nervous wreck. I've lost sleep over it at times. I'm frightened, to be very truthful. I don't want to see a war, but at the same time, see, who was it? I forget who we talked to that had indicated the following: China will not attack us. They know that we will kick ass in minutes. China understands the unconventional warfare method, the art of war. Get your enemy from within. Slowly get them from within. I have a classic thing I want to read to you right now. I saw a fascinating little blurb today from the 60s or early 70s. I think it was late 60s. A guy by the name of Yuri Bezbianov, Russian guy who defected from the USSR. He said there's an ideological subversion or a psychological warfare that is a method in ways for countries to defeat their enemies. And there's three stages of it. One is demoralization, and it takes about 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation through one generation of students. Marxism is pumped into their brains through learning facilities and whatnot, and which has already been done to the country. All right, and it's basically being done by Americans to Americans, or at least was done by Americans to Americans.
True.
And no facts mean anything to these people because they refuse to accept any facts. This is what the PC liberal world currently is thriving on. Second is destabilization. Takes 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation. And lastly is crisis. You can create a crisis in 6 weeks, which is exactly what's happening right now. And then you have people who promise all these goodies to everybody, like free college, free healthcare, free this, that, and the other thing. Civil rights defenders are very useful in taking over a country, and as they continue to spill their rhetoric to all their new indoctrinated people, eventually they get cut down too. And Doc, if you remember, you and I had a conversation about that, on how the very leaders who lead the revolution, what was it, Jacobins?
The Jacobins, yeah,
The
I think
Jacobins.
Robespierre, who was like the head of the, I shouldn't use the term head, he was the leader of those chopping off the heads of everybody that was not in on, the French Revolution. They were not in on the ideology of it, so he had their heads chopped off. And then he wound up being targeted for the same thing by his colleagues, who said, no, you're not orthodox enough. And he lost his head. Robespierre was
That's right.
the perfect example of that.
And just to finish off on what I was just saying, that has happened in it's happened in where did we fight Vietnam? Help me out, Vietnam.
Yeah, Nam, right.
In Vietnam, what was his name? Mao.
Well, at that time, that was Ho Chi Minh.
Ho Chi Minh.
Yeah, but
even people.
Maybe you're thinking of the Maoist cultural
the
revolution.
Maoist culture as well. All of them. They've all had. They have these rebellious uprisings, and sometimes the very people who are involved in those uprisings get murdered themselves. How many people did Hitler kill? As you know.
Yeah, good Nazis. Yeah,
it never works.
And Stalin did that with the upper echelons of the Communist Party.
Oh,
after,
so many.
After they slaughtered all the opponents of the Communist Party, then Stalin turned and collected all of the upper echelon of the Communist Party and had them killed.
Yep. So, I mean, it's just, I've said it 100 times on the program. I just can't believe we're living through this. I really can't. What's going on in this country is
isn't there? There's a curse that the Chinese say, "May you live in interesting times."
Oh my!
Is that a curse?
Yeah, that's a curse that you say to your worst enemy. I hope you wind up living in interesting times.
Really? I never heard of that before.
Oh,
but
yeah,
I think I'm going to start saying that.
And to tell the truth, since we're on the subject of Chinese, I think I may have misattributed it to Chinese, but I know it's a sort of an Asian mentality. May you live in interesting times.
Nice.
And certainly we are right now.
But you know what, Michael? I have to tell you one thing. We've all, you, me, and Mike Hideous here, all expressing amazement that we are stuck in this pandemic.
Right.
But those who study it are pretty much of the opinion that a pandemic like this is bound to come around every 100 years.
Yeah,
That's
things
exactly
happen
right.
things happen in cycles for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The development of viruses and things that run counter to methods of treatment and so on, about every 100 years.
It was our time.
Going back through history, I can't name all of them before the Spanish flu, but you can bet there was one in 1818 and 1718 and 1618. They come up, maybe more frequent in the Middle Ages.
There was one in 1720. There was one in 1820. There was one in 1919 or 1918. So every 100 years.
It was just our time.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes, and the economy is already in the toilet, and it's only going to get worse, by the way, from here on out. If you can imagine.
Don't say that.
I know, I know. I'm expecting to see a whole lot of businesses tanking and pay cuts left and right. Maybe even those in the media will get their pay cut as well.
Oh, maybe they'll get
We
what
might
they
see that.
deserve.
We might see that. And by the way, Doc, I did want to ask you your opinion on Dr. Fauci.
Well, my opinion is mixed. First, let's give credit where it's due. Dr. Fauci, before this came about, and he's a man in his 70s. I think he's older than I am.
I think he might be.
He's up there. For the past 50 years, he has been the leading and most prolific writer of scientific studies in the world. Nobody has more credits in their resume. No one has higher credentials. He has done the most studies and publications, scientifically proven, peer-reviewed and scientifically proven studies, and he's the tops when it comes to that. Now, that said, his orientation is not yours or mine. His orientation is, well, how do we treat the disease? How do we prevent its spread? And he's not weighing that against the economic disaster that the measures he recommends are causing. He's not taking into account the harm. I mean, I'm sure he is, but he doesn't weigh it as heavily as an economist would, as a statesman, a politician, a government leader. He doesn't weigh those. His emphasis is on the healthcare measures, and that trumps everything as far as his pronouncements, in my opinion.
He gets paid either way.
Yeah. Now lately, he has sort of started to make comments about the adverse effects, the harm caused by some of these extreme lockdown measures. Lately, he has made some statements in that regard. I can't quote them, but I know he's talked about, well, yeah, it is harmful to children, and yeah, it is bad for people to be locked up, and yes, psychologically, there may be emotional harm done to people, and the economic damage is not reversible, and so on. You know what the thing is? He's been in too long in his role, and as such, I guess his ideas. I'm an older man too. My ideas are fixed, so his ideas are fixed, and he's not open to changing them or incorporating alternate opinions.
He's 79 years old, by the way.
Yeah. Good for him. He's done a wonderful, wonderful job in the role he served for many, many years, and deserves to be credited for that. But he's not a treating physician, and he doesn't, for example, treat people with depression. He doesn't do preventive measures for suicide. He doesn't worry about people can't pay their mortgages. The mortgage is not his specialty. Viruses and epidemics are his specialty. So he thinks about viruses and epidemics. He doesn't think about suicides and failures of businesses and people having their homes repossessed. He doesn't think about those things. No, I don't mean he's ignorant of it. He just doesn't weigh them as important as he does the things he's devoted his whole life to.
Like I said,
he's been around for like 20 years, I believe. My goodness.
Yeah.
He's been doing it a while.
Around for 50 years, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to get paid either way. As you said, he's thinking about the medical part of it, and he's going to get, get his check.
That's his role, and he should, but he shouldn't have a monopoly on how things, on policy. He shouldn't.
I agree. I agree 100%, and that's why I don't think it should have been just left to him to make some of these very important decisions.
But some people just wanted to make, and again, that's the political divide. Many of our fellow citizens feel that he should be the, people quote it, "I believe in the science." By that, they mean everything Dr. Fauci says should be law. Well, isn't that what they mean when they say, "I believe in the science"? Well, I believe in the science too, but science has many, many facets, and it can be applied to economics. It can be applied to family sociology. It can be applied to government and national defense and so many other things. It's not just about illness and disease and this one particular pandemic.
Right. And how long has it been, Mike, that we've been talking about this pandemic?
Since February,
Since it
March,
broke, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
My goodness. You know, it is kind of hard to talk about any other subject right now, to be perfectly honest. You know, I've tried,
right.
Mike, but my attention goes right back to what America is currently facing.
Right.
It's very hard to get my mind off of this. Go ahead, Mike.
I will help you then. Many people don't know Dr. John is also he's a fabulous artist. He's also very much into music. I met. Let me give you a quick story of how I met Dr. John. In 1993, I was married at the time. In fact, I was freshly married, about a year. And with my band at the time, Empire Hideous, we were still fresh, still new, not exactly good. And we played a show, my first real show, at CBGB's in New York City, the famous CBGB's. And after the show, I was happy. We did a pretty good night that night. We had a good show. And after I walked off stage, this gentleman walks up to me and my wife and says to me, "How you doing? My name's Dr. John. I want to paint your picture."
Mike, let me interrupt you just for a second. Just coincidentally, I'm wearing this shirt, A Night of Misanthropy, that I bought at that show in 1993. Yep.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Anyhow.
So basically, we played this show, Night of Misanthropy, at CB's. And afterwards, Doc came up and asked my wife at the time, Carrie, and I, if he could paint us in the form of the famous American Gothic image, which is the farmer and his wife, the farmer holding the pitchfork. The pitchfork. And he wanted to do this thing that he had titled "What Happened to American Gothic," playing words on the whole Gothic scene.
Yeah,
and
that's the image. Everybody knows that image.
That's right. And so Doc and I immediately started talking. We became friends after that. It took him about a year to complete the painting. And
yeah, you and Kerry came over the house, and I know I set a camera up on a tripod. I'm not much of a photographer, but I got the photos I needed and different angles and so on, and I executed a painting I'm very proud of. What's happened to American Gothic.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I have it. It's in my art room. I still have a copy painting. He had a print made of it, and he gave it to me. It was very nice. It's a beautiful image. It's not only hanging on my wall, but the last Empire Hideous release album CD, which was called Remixes Through Time, actually has that painting that Dr. John had done in 1994.
My crowning achievement, yeah.
Yeah. Since then, Doc has also been a part of my band, both supportive and, in fact, even working with me. He helped me manage the band back in between 95 and 96. Thereafter, he had retired, turned it over to another guy by the name of Marty Coleman. Long story short, Doc, when I did my so-called, if you will, the acoustic comeback 2 years ago in 2018 on Halloween weekend, we played it at Dr. John's studio in New Jersey, where he allowed us to perform a set of acoustic songs, Empire Hideous songs, for a group of people who had showed up to a party. So Doc has been very supportive, not only of me in Empire Hideous and pretty much everything else I've done, but also in the Gothic scene, or the goth scene, if you will. He has written for magazines. He had his own column in a New Jersey paper called Arts Weekly. He still writes fabulous reviews. He's a great writer, absolutely fantastic, a great painter. You're quite welcome, and you know that.
Thank you so much.
And Doc and I have become very good friends over the years. And the reason I wanted to have him on tonight was because of his expertise in the medical field, not so specifically with viruses, but his, as I say, his association with other doctors who are familiar with it, as well as his knowledge and reading about the circumstances. He had an opinion, and I really wanted to bring it on tonight because we do talk to another doctor by the name of Dr. Paul Cottrell from New York City, and he has explained some very interesting things to us that usually leave me quite frightened at the end of our conversation.
Yeah, so, I know. I heard him. Very, very detailed and in-depth knowledge of this epidemic.
No doubt, and he's in the heart of it too, in New York City.
Yeah.
So, Michael.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Mike.
You're quite welcome.
I hope that some listeners might check out drjohn.com. That's spelled DOKTORJOHN, one word. Doctor spelled out with a K instead of a C. .com, where I maintain a website with my artwork, but also all the 19 years of writing my column, New Dark Age, and my thoughts on so many other things, on movies and the goth scene and so many other aspects of our modern culture. So, drjohn.com, it's my baby. That's what I have devoted myself to.
Dr. John also is a lover of great cinema. He loves all the old black and white horror films and great suspense films from the classics, I should say.
Yeah, the 30s and 40s, right? Yeah. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Michael, you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Very nice. And by the way, before we let you go, do you think President Trump has handled the coronavirus, the pandemic, properly?
Do I think so?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can't see any major faults in it because, he was quick to cut off any entry of immigration from China. He was quick to cut it off. I mean, that was the right thing to do. So many people screamed. They called him a xenophobe and a racist. And what nonsense. They had this epidemic in China. It was contagious. Europe was suddenly inundated. He cut it off. And what else could you do? He made available the resources of the federal government to people who needed it for acquiring respirators for their intensive care units and so on. I mean, what else could you do? I can't see anything. I can't see any fault in his handling of it. It hasn't been extremely effective, but I don't see how something could be more effective. So,
well,
I can't
Doc,
fault anything in his policies. I really cannot.
Understood.
As you know, Doc, if I may just intersect for a second. As you know, Doc, President Trump could come up with a cure for cancer and they'd still give him a hard time about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing he can do that will appease the left. They simply hate him so much that they are blinded by their hate and they no longer see anything that he does to be worthy of any sort of worthiness.
That seems to be the case. What you're saying seems to be undeniable.
No doubt.
Well, once again, thank you so much for being a part of the program, Doc. We will talk to you again on the other side.
Sure, and it's been enjoyable. Thank you for having me and giving me an opportunity to express myself in this platform.
You got it, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
You're welcome, Mike Hideous. And you're welcome, Michael.
You got it, brother. Take care.
You too.
Mahalo.
Have a good evening. Have a good night.
So long, Doc.
So long. Bye now.
And there he goes, Dr. John Ambrose. And Mike, it's time for a break here.
All right.
That came by pretty fast, right?
Yeah, we flew through that, man. We
That was
flew
quick.
through that.
I agree. Well, once again, Mike, it's that time for another wonderful, deserved break. I have to piss, to be honest.
Me too.
I gotta piss really bad. So yeah, perfect timing. And I do want to thank Dr. John for being a part of the program again. A great guest. And Mike, we will meet again in a few moments here.
Absolutely. I'll see you in about 5 minutes, buddy.
Oh yes. Hang tight. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time to go on a very, very much needed break here. And I have to tell you folks out there, it is a great time to go to the bathroom or go to the fridge. Get yourself a snack or whatever gimmick you want to take before the program starts again. Now is the time to do so. Any gimmick is fine by me. And with that said, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. And welcome back, boys and girls, for round 2 of the program. I hope you're all doing well out there. Nice to see you in the chat room there. Thanks for sticking around. We've got a bit more to discuss here before we wrap it up. And I believe Mike is also ready. Mike, what's going on? Are you out there?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm refreshed, as we would say.
Yes, I needed that break.
Me too.
I had to piss like a racehorse. I really did.
Yeah, me too.
My God. But man, that was fun, right?
What, the piss or the interview?
Both. The piss and the interview.
Yes. The interview a little bit more than the piss, but definitely both were exciting and invigorating. Doc is a very he's a Renaissance man, and it's one of the reasons him and I have been friends as long as we have. I respect him greatly. He's become a dear friend of mine over the years, and as I said, that's one of the reasons we've stayed friends as long as we have.
Understood. I didn't really get to ask him my final questions, however, like, how is this going to play out in the end, in his opinion? What is the end game? That's what I wanted to know from the doc, but, time is a bitch.
It is. Knowing Doc as long as I have, I couldn't even answer for him. Every once in a while, he'll surprise me with his own, obviously his own opinion, but him and I do see eye to eye on several things, although I'm sure he would like to keep a little bit of a privacy on that. I don't want to speak for him, so.
Understood. And that's fine. And Mike, another serious matter I thought we should discuss here before we end the show.
Sure.
Before we got signed off the last show, you mentioned Michael Aquino.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we ran out of time.
Yes.
I couldn't talk about that in length. And to be honest with you, Mike, I had received an email about Michael, and I wasn't exactly too sure whether or not I should talk about it or not.
This is recent?
Well, a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
It's just I had no idea if this was valid or not.
So you did hear about it?
I did hear something about it, but I sort of brushed it off.
Okay, interesting. And I gotta say, Michael, I'm kind of surprised that you would do that, because knowing he had the cancer and that he was sick, I mean, he had told us many times, I'm really surprised that you didn't think it might have been true.
Yeah, I was just a little taken back by it, to be honest with you.
That he died, or that you had got that message?
Both.
Yeah. You know how I found out about it? I was on the show with Jerry and Nish. What's it called? Noctum.
Right. Nox Mente.
Nox Mente. Yeah, I had done an interview with them. I believe it was last Wednesday, and or it might have been before that. I don't even remember anymore. But we were talking about magic, and I had mentioned the show, the Michael Decon program, and I had mentioned how you had asked me to come on and do the interview with you on I believe it was 4 or 5 separate occasions. When I mentioned that to them, that's when Nish told me that Michael had passed. And I got to be honest with you, I for a moment there, I was in absolute shock. I mean, I didn't know the guy personally, but he was a massive influence on my life. Him and, of course, Dr. Anton LaVey, who was at one point Michael Aquino. Dr. Michael Aquino was Dr. LaVey's right-hand man back in the late 60s and early 70s, before the Church of Satan had fallen apart. So, again, big influence of mine. When I heard it on the show, I was taken back, probably just as much as you were.
Right. And of course, I had no time to sort of talk about that the last show, so I apologize. And I had heard some things early on, but I felt, again, kind of odd about it. I didn't want to say anything on the air. I wanted to keep some respect and privacy for his friends and family.
Right. And they just announced it formally, like two weeks ago, give or take?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, in fact, I think it was July 1st, Wednesday, when I did the interview, and I think Nish had said they announced it that day, July 1st.
Right. And I didn't know Michael for very long, but we became somewhat like friends. And we talked quite a bit off air, and the man, as I mentioned before here on the program, is maybe one, if not the smartest person I've ever talked to. Incredibly insightful and humorous. He really enjoyed this show, matter of fact.
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, I believe he said it was his favorite show, and he had a lot of respect for me and this program. I think he did more interviews on the show than anywhere else. And for that, I am completely grateful to have crossed paths with Michael. And check this out, by the way. I had asked him before about the show, if he liked the show, and Mike, believe it or not, I asked him if he had heard of the show before, and he actually said he had. Kind of weird.
Great. I gotta say,
and he didn't tell me about that, by the way, Mike.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying he never told me about that until after the surgery he had.
Really?
Right. There's a few things I have never talked about with anyone about Michael.
He was a great guy. He really was a great man.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy, to be honest with you. He was definitely the most controversial figure that has ever graced the program, that's for damn sure. And he will be missed by many people out there. And yes, disliked as well by many out there. No doubt. But the thing is, me and him had a very, we had like a friendship of sorts, He was almost like a grandfather type. And I don't know why, Mike, but he had a lot of respect for me.
And again, I don't want to toot my own horn. You had your connection with him, but I gotta say, I think that when I came on the program as a regular, I think he really dug that, because knowing my background with magic and my belief in Satanism, so I think he really took that into that was a great thing for him. He's like, oh, Michael Decon's finally got a Satanist on the show.
He did like you, indeed, no doubt. Yes, he mentioned you in emails. Yes. That's another thing awesome. I've never really told you. I'm very private with these things off air.
I know you are.
I don't really like to discuss it, and I know he has lots of people out there who hate his guts and wanted him to die. No doubt. That's life, though. You're always going to have that. But again, my relationship with him has, again, it's been completely friendly. I've never talked to him about anything else aside from regular life things, and just life in general is what me and him would talk about. He was a very interesting guy away from off air as well as on air, but the things we talked about were pretty normal.
Yeah, well, he's a normal guy. I mean,
very
aside
normal.
From being the high priest of the temple set.
Yeah, we never talked about. We talked a little bit about that, but it wasn't exactly like that was the main focus,
Sure. I'll tell you, I got to tell you, I'm extremely jealous that you got a chance to talk to him off air, because I would have loved to bend his ear on so many different subjects.
Well, here's the thing, though, Mike. Like, I didn't know anything about Michael, to be honest with you. It all came after the fact.
Right.
He knew about me before I knew about him.
Amazing.
Isn't that crazy?
That is amazing.
The guy said he liked the show. He said I was his favorite host out of every other one. I hate to toot my own horn here, but the guy,
facts are facts.
He was pretty awesome. He was always very nice to me for whatever reason. I don't know why, but he liked me. Pretty crazy. I don't know.
That's wonderful.
And I'm hoping to bring perhaps his wife Lilith to the program. Yeah, Lilith would be fun to talk to, Mike.
I gotta be honest. I just wrote her. I just sent her a sympathy card.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I know she doesn't know me, but I wanted to express my condolences.
Yes, we'll find out. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if she would like agree to be on the interview. I mean, to do the interview rather, but keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, I don't know what her life is like, if she partakes in public affairs.
I don't think she does, dude. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
like, shit, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this one off, but
Right,
it would
right.
be interesting though, right?
Yeah, it would be wonderful. She's from New Jersey,
Right.
born and raised, and eventually moved out to San Francisco in the 60s, and eventually met Michael through the Church of Satan before it had crumbled.
Good Lord. And caller, go ahead. What's going on?
Hey, Michael. I wanted to see if you've heard of HR 2717.
Are we talking about the child trafficking that's been going on?
No, actually, it's taxing guns.
Is that what's going on?
And yeah. I guess it's a 30% tax.
It's either guns or child porn being trafficked. What else is new? Go ahead, caller.
Right, but it seems like it's anti-gun, so I just didn't know if you heard of it at all.
I haven't. Tell me more.
Yeah, tell us, because I didn't quite get the first part. Can you repeat it again once more?
Yeah,
Cole?
go ahead. I have to.
Sure.
Put your gain up here.
So
Go
I have
ahead.
to apologize. I've had about 12 beers.
That's okay.
So I thought it's perfect to call in, right?
Very nice. Yes, you're allowed to drink.
Great, thank you. So the governor of Georgia, who didn't even know if Guam would fall into the sea, he's always on drugs and drunk, so I love him, right? So
Nice.
He proposed this bill, and it's a 30% tax on handguns, 50% tax on ammo, and then you have to register all current and past handguns, and it bans assault rifles.
Really?
And this is just in Georgia?
It's HR 27.
HR 27. Okay.
And they're trying to slip this by during the COVID. I'm not a believer. If you want to wear a mask, fine. But I think it's bullshit. I'm a director of sales for a Fortune 7 medical company, and there's about 61 hospitals in my territory in Florida. And for about 3 months during COVID, it was like a ghost ship in every hospital. Like, nobody there.
Yeah.
Like, only the doctors and the nurses parking lot were full. So nobody on vents, no patients, nothing. So I'm not saying that New York wasn't hit. It seems like it was, but to me it's a hoax. But but I thought the anti-gun legislation was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. At first I thought you were referring to the Wayfair child trafficking allegations that's been going on.
Oh yeah. No, not at all. No, I know. I wish the elite would leave the kiddies alone, but yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Those bastards.
Zero tolerance for that bullshit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. But
well,
yes,
wow, brothers, I didn't think I'd get through it, and I'm sorry I've had like 12 beers.
No, I mean that's
making sense. But
no, it makes it more interesting.
I know you're armed, so I know you guys are armed, so I love it. I know that Michael, you over in the other coast, you carry, and that's awesome. And I'm armed as well, so I thought HR 2717 is something you should look into.
Amazing.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, caller. I have
My name's
to
Rome,
say,
by the way.
Rome.
Yeah.
What's
Rome,
that?
just like the city. It's Rome, just like the city.
That's his name.
Oh, okay. Well, all I wanted to say was that based on what you're talking about with this tax on firearms and ammunition, I'm pleased to say that I am okay ammunition-wise.
Good.
Like, okay.
You're ready to handle a Waco incident, Mike? Is that what you're telling me?
I can neither confirm nor deny that comment, Michael.
Understood. So, caller, where are you located at, if you don't mind me asking? You don't have to give us a city, but, a state would be nice. Where are you at?
Yeah, no worries. I'm in Florida, and I've lived in California. I went to Pepperdine. So
oh, shit. You're in Florida.
Yeah.
We got a Florida man here.
Whereabouts?
Yeah,
are you close to Miami?
No, I'm actually in Spring Hill. I'll just name the location. It's an hour north of Tampa, but I've lived in New York. I've lived in 12 states. So, and 3 foreign countries. So, Florida's great though. There's no income tax, and you can carry.
But you are also in a very hot zone, as they call it now in the media, for COVID-19, and yes, Florida of all
and we
places.
see nothing. I mean, not. You know, I'm into freedom like you guys are. I'm a libertarian. I'm not into either party. I can think. You know, I've got a triple digit. I'm not a sheeple. I mean, I support anyone wearing a mask, but I just don't see it. I mean, there's nobody sick. I don't know anybody that has COVID, and I don't know anybody that knows anybody that has COVID. And I'm not saying they're not doing checks. I'm not saying they're not, you know, doing stuff that they're doing, but it just, like 60,000 people died of the flu in 2017, according to the CDC. So how is COVID north of those numbers?
So the question is, did you know anybody that died of the flu?
Well, that's a good point, Michael. Look at you. No, I don't. But you always have the other side. So that's a great point. But I mean, what are the odds? So.
And there's no vaccine for COVID-19 either, by the way, and it does far more worse than a flu, in my opinion.
No, it probably does.
It stays in your system like HIV, my friend.
No, you're probably right.
Fuck
I think
that.
They're doing some wicked shit. I think they're doing some wicked shit. So I think that this is a test run for when they really unleash it.
Well, I agree. That's why this thing was trafficked around like drugs, because it was being experimented on. It's not a complete virus. That's my theory, of course. I could be completely wrong with that notion. But again, I'm led to believe that this was completely man-made and not a finished product.
I agree with you. What do you think of chemtrails? Because honestly, I film them, you know? I mean, I film them doing like, you know, cross-hatching of the sky. You watch Breaking Bad, you watch other movies, they're fucking chemtrailing. Prince, the musician, talked about chemtrails and then died like 6 weeks later. What do you think about that shit?
About Prince or chemtrails?
Chemtrails.
Well, chemtrails, that's a very fascinating subject on itself, but we definitely do breathe in all sorts of bad particles and iron and all sorts of nasty chemicals, especially living out here where I am, a heavily agricultural area of El Centro. I mean, we have all these what are those goddamn planes called, Mike? Those crop dusters. Yeah, there we go.
Crop dusters.
We have lots of that going on as well out here, and yes, the skies are heavily polluted with all sorts of shit that you don't want to be breathing in. And of course, not to mention, there's different pathogens that you could be breathing in without even knowing it. And that's, whoa. And that's screwing up everyone's system. Whoa, did you get hit by a car there almost? What happened?
Shit, sorry. Typical Florida, God.
I know. I thought we were going to be reading about you in the Daily Mail. Florida man hit by car.
I just thought I'd end it, you know.
On a motorcycle.
I mean, the chemtrails and the COVID, I just fucking thought I'd do it, Michael.
That's okay.
Yes. So are you a believer or not? Because that was a very politician answer. Do you believe in chemtrails or no?
I believe so.
Okay.
No, I think so. I truly believe that they are spraying something in the sky. No doubt.
So I have a question for you, just as an intelligent person, to one intelligent person. What the fuck is that costing to spray every mile of the sky throughout the planet? And who the fuck is doing that?
That's a very...
I mean, if you just rationally kind of think about that, which we don't, but just cost-wise, I mean, what does it cost each day to chemtrail the entire fucking planet?
Probably...
And who's paying for that?
Yes, probably in the billions of dollars.
Okay. Per day, would you say? Or?
I wouldn't even say per day. I would say per year.
Okay.
Kind of like the same way we give money to Israel.
So this is what's fucking with me, both Michaels. Like, who's behind all this shit?
Who is behind them?
China.
You're right.
Like we say China, right? But we make all our shit in China. The United States companies are in bed with China. What if China just said, fuck you, Nike, we're taking your shit, right?
Oh, China's been pimping us for years. Yeah.
Right. So all of our manufacturing is over there, but they're supposedly communist, but we're tied to them. So what if they just said, fuck it, you know, we're taking it? and that's why we did COVID. But I'm saying, who's behind all of this shit?
That's a good question. You know, all this time,
who's the wizard?
That's what I've been wondering this entire time. Even when I talked to previous guests about this, they really don't have any tangible evidence of anyone that they point the finger to in this instance in regards to who exactly is responsible for the chemtrail spraying.
Well, all of it. So, you know, there's terrestrials on the pyramids. There's all kinds of hidden history. There's giant skulls. I mean, who is really running? You know, who's really running the whole ship? Like, are we just lab rats in a prison, or is it terrestrials, or is it human elite, or is it both? Is it like they live? I mean, who is it? Who would you say?
Well, it's definitely not Prince, that's for sure. And it's not Donald Trump, that's for sure. He's not in control of anything.
Little puppet.
I don't think any president is ever in control of anything, to be honest with you.
I think once they kill Kennedy, they're all just puppets. I think they're just reading the teleprompter like the Ken and Barbie doll in the news.
You know, when I ask people what they think of Donald Trump and the way he's handled the pandemic, you know, I'm not really asking a serious question. You know that, right?
Sure.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because some people are pretty fucking stupid that listen. So, you know, I have to be crystal clear, and I have to, you know, drive it in there sometimes. I have to mention these things even though I don't want to, because it's kind of common sense. You know, I am quite sarcastic here in my euphonious way of speaking that some people dislike, but that's their problem, not mine.
Sure.
Right.
No, I love your show, man.
Love that.
It's great. You guys are great. Yeah.
You got it, brother. Any more questions before we let you go? Because I do have to continue here.
No, brothers, no, not at all. So sorry to call in drunk, but I thought it was appropriate. So.
By the way, I got a message here, a text message saying it was George Soros who's controlling the chemtrails. Do you buy that answer?
He's like 89, man. He's like an elf, you know. He's like an assisted living facility. I mean, his son is the power player. If you Google his son, he's with all the elite.
Do you think he's going to die of COVID-19?
I hope he dies of bed sores.
I hope he does. Yeah, he's a little communist bitch. Yeah.
Do you think COVID will take him out? You don't think the FBI will send anthrax to his home?
No, COVID's too good for him. I hope he dies of bed sores.
Bed sores? Oy vey.
Slow and painful.
Amazing stuff. Well, caller, once again, thank you so much. Rome, I believe, right?
Yes, Rome was built in a day. Michael, thank you so much. Keep up the great work.
Love that. Make sure to call in again.
Yes.
Okay, brother. Thanks.
All right, mahalo.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye.
And there he goes. Great call there.
Nice guy.
Yeah, there's so many unanswered questions, and of course, I've thought about who is responsible for all these things as well, but it's a multi-layered issue. I think the military, obviously the government is involved to a certain extent, Mike, when it comes to that sort of thing in terms of the environment and spraying shit in the air. Who else has that kind of money? It's not Jesse Jackson, that's for sure.
Al Sharpton?
It's not Al Sharpton. Oh, man. So, Mike, we do have some more business here to attend to before we shut it down.
Yes. So
switching gears ever so slightly, it's time to bring back some humor. And, well, Mike, I have a question for you, and it also leads to another story.
All right.
Now, Mike, growing up at any time of your life, when your mom and dad kissed you, did they kiss you like, they kissed you on the cheek, right?
Well, I certainly didn't get French kissed by my mom.
They never kissed you on the lips, right?
Well, yeah, occasionally, but as a small child, it was, wasn't even thought about.
They kissed you on the lips, Mike?
Not always, as I said, just sometimes, and it was just probably you got to understand, I came from an very Italian family.
Is that an Italian thing? That's not like a white thing?
Oh, yes. No, it's an Italian. I mean,
Italian thing, okay.
It's also a Latino thing. Latinos and Italians.
I've seen some of that. Yeah.
It's also a French thing too.
I've seen some of that.
Kissing is a very common thing. It's a European thing. And as I said, when I was a child, it wasn't a big deal to me. I'd have to kiss all my aunts and uncles and cousins. It was just a common thing.
So you were making out with your family?
I was
Oh my God.
giving them the tongue,
Lord, I wasn't sure, so I had to ask, and I'm asking because I've seen this sort of parenting go down. It's kind of strange to me, to be honest. I'm not sure if you know who Alicia Silverstone is, but she had a pretty good run as an actor in the late 90s, and I called her an actor, yes, because I don't think you are allowed to say actress anymore. I think you have to refer to them as actors now.
Get me started.
So actor in the late 90s, Mike, great run. She has a 9-year-old son, by the way, and his name is Bear. Of all things, Mike, Bear. That's the guy's name.
Right.
Bear.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Lord. So first of all, I don't even know what the hell to say about that, to be honest with you, but she has been known to like take showers with him, and he's 9 years old, by the way. And she's always being photographed now, kissing her son on the lips,
Yes.
like lots of times, and showering with him. And she also did the whole kiss feeding thing with the son. She's doing the bird gimmick, Mike. Chewing
I've seen pictures of that.
Oh my God! So is she fucking crazy?
Look, to be perfectly honest, just to give my opinion, I don't think she's overstepping any boundaries. It's a mother-son thing.
You think that's kind of gross, though?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, maybe the shower thing. How old was the kid when she took a shower with him?
I think he's like 9 years old, and she's still showering with him.
That might be a problem.
It's a little weird.
I remember as a boy, my dad teaching me how to take a shower, and I would go in the shower with him. But I was a boy, and he was a man.
Right.
And a lot of children, boys, have their fathers teach them that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. However, at the age of 9, I think there should be sort of a cutoff. That's like breastfeeding your child up to the age of 3 or 4.
Yeah, man, that's a little late in the game.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So yeah, they're taking showers together still.
Yeah, kind of weird, but at the same time, I kind of look at it this way. There's nothing like the connection between a mother or a father and its child and their child.
Well, I agree, man, but I ain't gonna kiss my mom or dad in the mouth.
And I get it. But when you say on the mouth, you mean like a passionate kiss on the mouth?
Well, I mean, she kissed
a peck?
In photographs I've seen with her and her son. She's like, getting in there.
Okay.
That's kind of weird.
You know what? Again,
that's the Hollywood. That's the Hollywood lifestyle, though. They're a bunch of weirdos.
That's it. And it's interesting you bring this whole subject up about acting. I really wanted to bring something up to you tonight. Whenever you're ready. Are you?
I'm not done yet.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm still going here, so it doesn't stop there, Mike. I must add Tom Brady to the mix as well, former quarterback of the New England Patriots.
Idiot.
He's been kissing his son on the lips as well.
He's a freak. And
he's kissing Bill Belichick on the lips as well, and Robert Kraft to that list. What's going on with Robert Kraft and his time in Florida as well. He likes to get that rub and tug sort of action going on there.
No, can you be more specific?
Amazing. But yes, Tom Brady, a freak. He's a great athlete, does a great job out there on the gridiron, but my God, every time I see him kissing his son, I'm repulsed, to be honest with you.
Reminds me of...
It's gross, man.
Reminds me of, what's his name, Fresh Prince.
Will Smith?
Kissing his son on national television, like grabbing him and kissing him, because they were talking about the very same thing on, might have been the Ellen show. The Ellen
DeGenerate show.
Exactly. And I think the kid was complaining about his father kissing him in public, and the kid's like 16 at the time, and he was giving him grabbing his head and giving him big kisses on the lips. But again, it's this, it's a father, and the love a father or a mother has for their child there's just no comparison.
I love you so much. I'm going to put my tongue in your mouth, son. Stay there.
Well, that's where you draw the line.
Oh my fucking God.
That's where you draw the line. You don't French kiss your child.
Oh my goodness.
But a big smooch on the lips, there's nothing wrong with it. I've done it to people. And I wouldn't do it to a child because I don't own kids, and I'd probably get arrested just for thinking the thought.
Amazing. That's true, but it's funny you mentioned Will Smith. He's another guy who's been put through the ringer as of late because of that Jada Pinkett Smith. They've been going back and forth, Mike, and they've been airing out their dirty laundry for the rest of the world to see. Typical Hollywood couple, but my God, that family is beyond fucked in so many ways.
I don't even know who that is, Michael.
Will Smith and the wife.
I know Will Smith, but who's the other one?
She's an actress as well, or actor. She was an actor at one time, and they had this very strange relationship for a very long time. And she hooked up with a younger man when they were allegedly separated.
All right.
Well, they claim they were, but yes, it's very strange that these people in Hollywood very, very open about their relationships.
Michael, I've always asked myself, for example, let's just say, for example, hypothetically, an actor and an actress who are married. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, whatever her name is.
They were like swingers at one time.
Okay, but again, I'm not going on them personally. I'm just trying to use them as an example.
That's okay.
In a comment here. Let's just say, two major actors, actresses are married together.
Right.
And then in a film, they have to conduct a love scene.
Sure.
You got to ask yourself, how does that play off in the marriage? For example, James Gandolfini, who is now dead, rest his soul. He was the star of The Sopranos. In The Sopranos, mind you, while he was married, he had many love scenes in the Soprano episodes. And I wonder, eventually he got divorced. And you got to ask yourself, was it because of the love scenes that he has to portray on scene? Did you ever seen Boogie Nights?
I've seen Boogie Nights. It's a great film, right?
Do you remember the scene where Marky Mark bangs, forget her name, that real pretty girl who played the leading role?
The blonde girl?
No, that was
or the
other
brunette.
Girl. The brunette. She's famous. She's been in a lot of films. But he bangs her it's just so intense, and you gotta ask yourself, if you were married to that actress, how would you feel about a love scene? What really takes place in these acting?
Yeah, you're talking about Julianne Moore.
Is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, she's great. She was also in Children of shit.
Roller Girl was Heather Graham, by the way.
Yes, Roller Girl.
She was the blonde I was referring to.
That's right. That's right.
Great film.
Anywho, my whole point was how do you handle something like that, and does it affect the marriage? And I guess to some extent it does.
Well, what kind of actor was he? Was he a method actor, or was he just a normal actor?
Who, Marky Mark?
No, the other individual we were just speaking about.
Oh, James Gandolfini?
Yes.
That's a very good question. I couldn't tell you. I really don't know. But
well, maybe he was just getting into the role.
Of course.
So you had to bang him.
Actor.
Yeah,
that's a great actor.
He had to bang him out. You never know.
But let me ask you this, Michael.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you think it's necessary? Do you think it's necessary in today's cinema that there are explicit sex scenes within films?
Well, sex sells, Mike. That's never going to stop. They're always going to be doing that for sure. But yeah, I know what you're referring to. Lots of relationships do get started because your co-actor, actress there. You start flirting during a scene and that carries off in real life. So these sort of situations happen all the time between actors. Yeah.
Right. But my question to you was, do you feel it's necessary to see an entire, a 5-minute explicit sex scene? Do you remember the sex scene in Matrix 2? I believe it was Matrix 2.
I do.
Where Keanu Reeves bangs the Trinity chick, and I mean it's intense, the orgasm, everything. And I sit there.
What's wrong with that, Mike?
Well, here's my point. Here's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I sit there and I watch these films with these explicit sex scenes. Now, I'm no prude, okay? And I've been around the friggin' block. But I sit there and I'm watching a movie, and like there's like 5-10 minutes worth of a sex scene, and I'm like, do I really need to see this? What happened to the days of where a scene, a love scene was about to take place, and then the camera cuts away? Do I really need to see like the motion of a guy banging another girl? I mean, what's the purpose of it?
Well, sex sells, Mike.
Indeed,
They're selling they're selling, you know, they're selling the fantasy. They're selling the story.
I suppose. I think
that's
it's
how
wrong.
it goes.
I don't think
you think it's wrong?
Well, I don't want to sound like an old fogey prude.
Mike, you kind
not.
of are right now. You're kind of you're kind of reaching that level, Mike. I got to pull you back.
But you know, it's like I watch and I'm like, this. I don't feel it's necessary. I don't know. I never. All my life, I never felt it was necessary. I even got my bird worked up now.
Oh my goodness! Now the bird is mad. My goodness. Well, moving forward here, I also want to apologize to Johnny Depp. He will never hear this, of course, but many moons ago, there were headlines accusing Depp of physically abusing his girlfriend Amber Heard. As time has progressed, we have learned many disturbing details. Now, mind you, this is Amber Heard. She's a very beautiful actor, known currently for her role in the film Aquaman, which I haven't seen. One of the most disturbing details, and it was in fact the proverbial nail in the coffin for their marriage. My boy Johnny Depp alleges that his former wife, let me backtrack. Mike, by the way, I have to say, my apologies to this man, because I thought for a moment there that he had physically abused Amber Heard, but that's not the case. Not the case at all. So my boy Johnny Depp here alleges that his former wife Amber Heard and a friend defecated in their bed after an argument, Mike. I'm not even joking. That happened. And
who does that?
Who does that? And Mike, this is where I draw the line. I mean, boys and girls, you gotta draw the line somewhere. You shit in the bed. Your ass is grass. Yes, you'll be. That's right. You'll be having to sleep at your sister's house, and this is unimaginable and just completely inconceivable. You know, that's the point of no return, Mike. You're gone. If you were a man, I would have to put you in a coma, and I'm not even joking around when I say that.
Yeah. And so let me ask, whose bed did they crap in?
And in his bed, in Johnny Depp's bed. They shit in his bed as it like a joke.
Oh my lord.
Wow.
All right, so there you go.
Good Lord.
Here's a perfect lesson learned. Don't always jump to conclusions until you know the facts.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. And the next day, Johnny Depp found that someone had shit all over his bed that the two shared. It was actually... This was after Johnny Depp showed up late to Amber Heard's birthday party, where the two had an argument over that matter. And that's when she shit in his bed. And Johnny Depp is quoted as saying it was one of the most absurd, unexpected statements that I have, ever witnessed in my life. So he said that he actually had a laugh because it was so strange. He said,
"I would have like."
I hope I
would have done the same.
I hope I remembered that correctly. By the way, you might want to look up everything I just said. I'm going off the top of my head here, but if I remember correctly, this is exactly what happened. So there you have it, folks. Hollywood is beyond screwed up. Look no further than, like we mentioned, Will Smith and his marriage. My goodness. My goodness.
Now, I while we're on the subject, real quick, I got to bring up one thing that I heard lately about the whole political movement, political correct movement, where they are getting pissed off about people acting, for example, a gay man or a straight actor portraying the part of a gay man. They want real gay men to play the part. So, people, it's called acting.
That's
what
right.
do they get? What's next? If you're going to have a vampire, we want a real vampire.
They want the real thing, Mike. That's why.
We want the real thing. Exactly. It's total stupid. It's completely stupid. This has nothing to do with Hollywood. Everything to do with political correct idiots.
Pretty ridiculous. I didn't even know about that.
This is the reason on one of the last shows that we did, I made an announcement that I will never watch any more new Simpsons episode.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
You remember me saying that?
That's right.
Because they have now said that they are no longer going to use the character Apu, who was the Indian guy who plays. Actually, it's a regular guy who plays and uses an Indian accent to portray or do acting for the scene. And so now they're all ticked off, and they say, well, you shouldn't have somebody playing the part of an Indian. Why not? Why not? It's so stupid. The world has gotten retarded.
No, I agree. It's gone pretty insane, to say the very least. And Mike, we are coming to a close very, very shortly here. And of course, I did have one more other thing to mention before we shut it down. And that goes back to Melania Trump. A statue of her in her hometown was defaced. It was set on fire.
Are you surprised?
Well, no. Not at all. I'm not surprised at all.
Of course. They're tearing down monuments of Washington. George friggin' Washington.
I have to say, though, I mean, I have to probably give some credit to that person who set that statue on fire. I mean, have you seen how terrible that Melania Trump statue looks? It looks like some autistic kid cut it out of wood and just set it up there. It looks like complete shit, Mike.
Can you please send me a link?
It's one of the dumbest looking statues I've ever seen. So in this point, I would have to say burn it down twice.
Good riddance.
Yeah, burn that shit. It looks awful.
I was unaware of the hideousness of this Melania Trump statue, but again,
it looks
not
awful,
surprised.
Mike. It looks fucked. It looks fucked. Okay, I can't describe it any other way, people. I mean, look it up yourself.
Okay.
Look at it. I'm looking at that thing like, who made that? Were they even sober when they made that? Good God. That's an abortion
boy.
if I ever saw one, Mike.
Oh. But as bad as it may be, and I'm not saying, I haven't seen it, so I really can't.
Well, I agree, Mike. It shouldn't have been burned down, obviously.
It should have been done, because these people are losing their goddamn minds.
Yeah.
They really are. This all goes back to what I was just saying before about the demoralization, destabilization, and crisis of bringing down a country to socialism. This is exactly what's happening.
Amazing stuff, right?
It's frightening, Michael. I can't even say it's amazing, because I would think something amazing would be remarkable in a good way. This is just plain stupidity. And it should be dealt with properly. These people are out of control. And let me be perfectly clear when I say I do not support BLM. I do not support Antifa. I am not part of a politically correct movement. Don't tell me what I can and can't do.
Amazing. Well, with that said, Mike, I guess it's now that time to play this here for everyone.
Oh boy.
Put your hand on that television.
There we go.
Yes, Lord. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus, for tonight.
He received your healing. Yes. Now.
That's what happens when you turn your back to God, Mike.
Say it, I take it.
I take it.
I have it.
I have it.
It's mine.
It's mine.
I thank you and praise you for it.
Yes, Lord.
And I forgive if I have aught against any. And I praise you that I'm well and whole.
I think you should be a Christian, Mike.
I was.
I think you should be again.
Can't.
A born-again Christian, Mike. I think that's your path in life.
Oh, now you're talking.
That's your path. That's your path.
Praise you.
You think regular
according to
Christians
the
are
Word of
brainwashed?
God.
Amazing.
I'm healed.
I'm healed now from the coronavirus.
And I consider not my own body.
Yes. Consider not my own body.
I consider not symptoms in my body.
I consider not symptoms in my body.
But only that which God has promised.
Only that which God has promised.
Only that what the Word has said.
Only that what the Word has said.
And by His stripes I was healed. And by His stripes I am healed now. I'm not the sick trying to get healed. I'm the healed, and the devil's trying to give me the flu.
Hail
Or
Satan.
whatever else kind of thing he's trying.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Healed and well.
Yes.
In the sweet
What's he
name
say?
of Jesus.
I'm healed.
Heal Manuel.
Yeah.
Who's
Amen.
Manuel?
Amen.
Amen, baby.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah, Mike.
Hail Manuel.
Would you go out drinking with Kenneth Copeland, Mike?
Wait, what? What?
Would you go out drinking with the guy if he asked you?
No.
You'd
No,
probably.
I can't tolerate people like that.
You
Drunk
probably.
or
You would probably punch him out, right?
I wouldn't go that far. I try. I don't like to be a violent person.
You wouldn't hit him.
I only.
Hit him a little bit there.
That sounds good.
I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more punch there. There you go.
Oh, my nutsack.
There you go, Mike.
We are on a roll tonight, Mike.
We really are. We really are.
This is like the Tonight Show.
It kind of is. And I want to thank all the mods out there for hanging out with us tonight. And of course, the listeners out there, thank you very kindly for being here. And of course, the newer listeners out there, thanks for finding this program. And of course, find this on iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, which I like, and Spotify. Just look for the Michael Decon program and you'll find the show. And of course, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. And Mike, go ahead and plug anything you'd like. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Right on. I want to say thank you to our guest, Dr. John, for attending tonight and being part of the show. I want to say thank you to Mr. Michael Decon, and I want to say thank you to all the listeners tonight. Thank you very much. We would be nowhere without you.
That's right.
And if you're interested in any of my musical efforts, you know where to go. MikeHideous.com. That's MYK, hideous.com. If you'd like to see any of my art and or photography, I have prints for sale. You can go to horribleartwork.com, horribleartwork.com. And last but not least, if you're interested in connecting with me on Facebook, facebook.com/hideous Mike, M-Y-K-E. Thank you very much for listening tonight, folks. I had a wonderful time.
And if you don't support Mike out there, you ain't black.
You ain't black.
You ain't black if you ain't buying Mike's artwork.
Word up.
That's right. So, Mike, once again, thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll do this again soon.
Very good. Thanks, buddy.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Good night.
Mahalo. And there he goes, boys and girls, the one and only Mr. Mike Hideous. Once again, he drew assignment for us this evening, and he did a great job. And of course, the doctor was in the house. That was fantastic. And of course, I want to thank those who donated, Renee and Christina, and who else was out there? Was that Dave? Who was it? I'm not even sure who it was, but I do want to thank all of you out there for supporting the show. It's been fun. And before I pull this Larry Silverstein style, I do want to remind all of you out there, if you want bonus content, please direct yourself to patreon.com/Michael Decon. And that is where you'll find even more gold one-on-one interviews with me, taking on the rest of the world. And I will go through the world if I have to. And I hope you will too, to get what you want in this world. And yes, patreon.com/Michael Decon. Please subscribe to the YouTube page. And yes, Robin, thank you so much. Victoria Nish, Robin again, and V, and Lilith, and Bacon. Yes, everyone out there in the chat room, very nice. Good to see you. And of course, the international listeners out there, thank you so much for your support as well. Canada, Germany, the UK, Australia, Norway, and Brazil. I hope I remembered that. Whatever the case may be, I do want to thank all of you. Yes, Enlightened and Preparing. I believe it was you as well. Thank you very kindly Now, whatever it is that you do choose to believe, you must adapt now to all the changes around you. That's what life is all about. Change and adapting. And that's what we must do yet again. And boys and girls, always great to see you out there. And we'll do this again on the other side. And with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, mahalo.
We'll be right back.